Welcome, guys. We are live. This is the Digital Climax Kings coming to you here on a Freestyle Friday. I'm joined with Digital Prophets here. I am the Dead On Leprechaun, and we just wanted to have kind of a chill night tonight. There was some news, but it was a little slower today than the rest of the week, and that's sort of the trend. So I think Jeremy would, or excuse me,
Erase that. No.
erase that. Go back. Um,
Digital prophets in the house,
Dig-
baby.
Digital Profits was just telling me an excellent story, and I was going to have him open with that.
All right, I'm just gonna give you guys a heads up. I have a real sketchy connection, so Leprechaun, you're gonna have to kind of moderate me. If you lose me, maybe let me know, and I'll just be rambling without knowing. So, just real quick, I was
Yeah,
on the phone with some.
I'll raise my arm up if we lose you.
Okay, and hopefully I can see that because I am going blind from staring at screens for so long. Um,
Oh,
I was on the phone with some friends of mine last night, older friends, very wise. Like they really have taught me a lot of stuff over the years, known them for like a decade. But they were really getting deep with the situation going on globally, starting with, who controls the food, who controls the oil, the energy, basically. If you control the energy, you control the food production. You control the food production, you control the population, just like you're on a farm, right? That's how it works out here in Texas. And so they were just getting elaborating on it. I was like, okay, well, what's going on with this war stuff? And they told me, what war? And I said, what do you mean? The one in Ukraine? And they were making a point. They said, oh, the war that they're showing you, that's not really happening, sweetheart. And I was flabbergasted. We could play off of that. I just wanted to share it with you because we talked for like an hour after that, and went off on tangents and theories, and I just basically asked a lot of questions, got a lot of weird answers. I don't think I can share yet because I don't completely understand what's even going on, what's true, what's not. But I know there's a lot of confusion going on, and Leprechaun, I'm kind of relying on you to help us maybe sift through this craziness on a Freestyle Friday. I'm hearing wild.
yeah. It's like I said, it hasn't been as quite as an intense news day as we've had, every other day this week. It seems like, but
True.
I just wanted to show folks a video and then break it down what I think our different scenarios might be. So I'm going to play this video of Mr. Joe Biden today in Brussels.
The average citizen. Look at how they're stepping up. Look at how they're stepping up. And you're going to see when you're there, some of you have been there, you're going to see women, young people
Sounds
standing
creepy.
in the middle in front of a damn tank,
What?
just saying, I'm not leaving. I'm holding my ground. They're incredible.
This
Also,
guy is
the average
encouraging
citizen.
death.
Look at how they're stepping up. Look at how they're stepping up. And you're going to see when you're there, some of you have been there, you're going to see women, young people standing in the middle in front of a damn tank, just saying, I'm not leaving. I'm holding my ground. They're incredible.
That's creepy.
Yeah,
This is Webflow.
sorry. Tried to catch it before we got our ad.
Can I say something? He does not sound like a competent world leader.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that, I don't know if it was a gaffe or not. I mean, I think that there's certainly a good chance that we will get involved in a much bigger way. I think that we'll end up having a buildup of troops regardless, and I think that was always the plan. But I will say that with you, with your position, I think you're right. I think the dude's starting to lose it. I think that he sounds like an old, frail man. It'd be kind of like if you took your grandpa halfway across the world and then told him to stay up when you think, he'd normally want to sleep on his, the United States sleep schedule. Like, I just can't imagine that. You think about his age and the amount of stuff that they're, doing with him, all these different stops they're making. That's just got to be a lot.
Leprechaun, can I ask you just a serious, non political question. Does this guy, does this seem like normal to you? Being that the headlines are exactly saying things like World War III, nuclear attacks, and this is the leadership of the most powerful supernation on the planet. I'm just trying to say, from a critical mindset, does this seem unusual to you at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you look at the corruption that, has happened in Ukraine and the history that the Biden family has with, Hunter Biden being on that board in Burisma, that was largely the reason that Trump got impeached the first time. So I think that that's all playing a role. How big of a role, you could definitely debate, but I think that, it's interesting. I mean, I think the guy is at a point in his life where it's time for people to pack him up and put him in a nice old folks home, but he's not got the energy level I think that's required of a United States president who's expected to be the commander in chief. Think about that for a second. This is supposed to be a guy that the really badass people in our country look up to. I mean, who can say with a straight face, yeah, he presents as a strong president that people respect and are afraid of. I mean, we talked about on previous podcasts, prophets, that he has these gaffes all the time. It's just I don't know.
Um, I don't know how it is in your side of the fence and with your family and friends, but during, I'd say about 3/4 of the way through Trump's administration, my family that leaned to the left and voted for Biden, they were so filled with hatred towards Donald Trump that I just stopped talking with them about politics completely. And now I still, like, whenever I talk to a family, which is very rarely when I talk to one of those family members, because it feels like they're just full of anger. All they kind of do is bring up things about Donald Trump, like, to this day, and it's just making something feel wrong in my heart about, like, what's going on using high end technology like TV programming and media propaganda. It is very real and is very effective. And I'm like, we're living in times where it has never been so obvious if you just take one college course on it, on the art of psychology.
What you're saying like rings so true to my day to day. Like I literally was with relatives who are hardcore, like Democrat donating NPR listeners that I am very close to. And the first thing that happened when I got there, when we started, kind of max and relax and having, a conversation, was she started telling me about the Supreme Court justice, I forget his name right now, Thomas, whose wife, um, whose wife was involved in something to do with the January 6th. So I don't know exactly what happened. The details are still coming out, but they are definitely thinking that she had, some sort of a role in the, what they call the insurrection, and the rest of us just call, a protest, a peaceful protest. But like the Supreme Court justice has literally gotten wrapped up on this that sucked into this January 6th thing, and she just couldn't wait to tell me.
Were you able to mute that motorcycle going by?
Yeah, I did.
Perfect. Good job. It was, yeah. I mean, it's Texas, bro. You never know what you're gonna see out here. All I gotta say, just another Texas plug, Leprechaun, because there's not gonna be a lot of time left to do these plugs. I'm praying I'm wrong, but it's like, yeah, economically speaking, like, it's the place to invest right now. And the dog just stole my shoe. Uh, all I'm trying to say is there's little, every now and then there's opportunities. Yesterday I saw headlines saying that the major cities on the east, San Francisco and Manhattan, have like the biggest population declines, while Texas, Dallas, Houston, and Phoenix were the biggest risers. I might have mentioned that last night, but that's like I'm seeing it happen, and I know why, because Texas is a republic. Texas has all the oil, all the fresh water. The water that comes out of the tap over here is delicious. Like, I can't say anything bad about the place. And there's so much work. Like, I really need some help out here for any like hardworking men that need a job. We have work, but it's hard work, which is very rare today
Yeah.
for people that
Uh,
want to do.
well, I've always thought that Texas has been exceptional in the way of potential. Like I
Yeah.
think that people have known for a long time, it's no secret really, that Texas has always been sort of I won't say it's the last Wild West, like it's not quite that dramatic, but it's as close as you're going to get in our modern world.
Honestly, it is the Wild West out here. If you come out to the country where I'm at and you don't know anybody, you're not going to do well. It's that kind of place. Things die out here daily. Like every dog I get attached to ends up dying like a month later. But there's so many of them. They're everywhere. There's wild dogs, wild hogs, plenty of land, so many houses, and so much work. So that's my Texas plug for the night. Freestyle
Yeah,
Friday.
and those hogs can always be food.
Oh, here's the bonus with that leprechaun. They often do like bounties for them. You can just go out and go on a hunt, and then
I've
you
heard
turn the
that.
hogs
I've heard
in for
that.
like, yeah. Now I've done it a couple of times in my buddy's backyard, but we just sold them to some Cambodians for a couple $100, and that was pretty intense on a 100-degree day. This was years ago, probably like 6 years ago. But yeah, they're scary. Those hogs are terrifying. If you ever see one in person, dude, you don't want to see one in person, like unless you're in a vehicle. But even in a vehicle, like I had a friend hit one, just totaled his new Kia or whatever plastic automobile it was. The hog pretty much won, even though it died.
Nice. Yeah, I mean it's like you said, they do some pretty crazy stuff with them. I've seen them advertise those helicopter hunts where people go up with
Oh,
like modern sporting rifles and they plug hogs from the sky in a chopper. And I can't really think of anything more fun to do if I was in Texas. Like that's the
and
first
here,
thing I would run out and do.
that is actually, despite what your PETA program mindset might be, that it is doing everything out here a favor because they're indigenous to this area and they're just way overpopulated. And these things are destructive. They'll root up your lawns or your gardens or just trash everything, dude. They don't care. They're hogs.
Yeah, yeah, they're definitely a nuisance at minimum, and like you said, they do some damage to crops, and there are a lot of reasons why you wouldn't want to have a bunch of them around your house.
Yes, for sure.
So, what else is new? Tell us a little more about
Okay, so
Texas
we
and
were
your
talking about
experiences there.
Trump, right?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh. Well, here's the thing. I'm working right now with three of just Texas's finest wild men. They're all like former. They like used to work on drill rigs, and like when you work on a drill rig, they were talking after work today that there's a, a poster that tells you right away how much they will pay if you lose a body part. So if you lose like a leg, you get 10 grand. If you lose a thumb, thumbs are the most expensive because without a thumb, you're nothing. But if you lose like your middle finger, they give you like 2 grand. And it was just blowing my mind. These guys are savages. I'm in the right place because I just thrive on that type of like, forgive the toxic masculinity, leprechaun, but I mean, it's what kind of makes us men. And that's when you're working with men, dude, it's not pretty. It's not easy. But if you are real, it's enjoyable. You know what I mean? Like today, we probably all yelled at each other like 10 times, like seriously. But then that's just part of the job. That's why I'm saying not everybody's cut out for this. It's definitely an experience. But there's so many different experiences to be had in Texas. This is just the working version out in the country. I mean, right down the street, we have what's called the Woodlands, which is just North Houston. And that's where you see Lamborghinis, Ferraris, beautiful, like water decorations spewing into the air. And it's a whole Different world, Leprechaun. I'm telling you, you could never get bored out here. There's too much.
I Yeah, I believe you. I mean, I'm interested already. Like, I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah. Second you're ready to come down and hang out for a day or two or a week or a month or whatever, just let me know because we're always preparing. I'm looking for property right now, and it's only going to be more intense as we move forward because, like I mentioned before we went live, I'm working with my boss to tokenize his assets that the business creates, which we'll talk more in depth on maybe like a Monday or a Tech Tuesday or something. But I'm excited. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. And we've kind of joked around with the titles of these and we haven't gotten too serious, but I think we really should do some things like you said, do like a Tech Tuesday, the Freestyle
Mm-hmm.
Friday, and just
Mm-hmm.
have like these different streams kind of be their own little animals, so people can tune in for whatever they like or none of it or all of it or
Yeah.
whatever.
Right. And then maybe we could go more like in depth on, like you said, a tech talk Tuesday. So we'd focus more on that than like the political stuff because who wants to always hear about that? Nobody, except the extremists. And I'm an extremist for. I'm more of an extremist for love. I love to love things and have fun doing what I love. Right? They say if you love what you do, Leprechaun, you never work a day in your life. Right? I don't feel like I've really
So
worked for a long time. It's a little secret, a little hidden
so true.
inside secret right there. A lot of people think I'm like it's. Oh, here's a point I want to make. This has been heavy on my heart a lot lately. It is so interesting how people treat you when they think you're rich and how they treat you when they think you're poor. I've seen both sides over and over and over. Leprechaun, it's amazing. Like how powerful this like possession of wealth that's not even real can create a facade. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And a lot more of it is a facade than I think people realize. Like, I don't know. I think a lot of things actually are a facade that people have no idea. I mean, I think if people really saw behind the Iron Curtain, saw some of the events that we call it news, but in reality, a lot of the stuff you actually hear on the news is weeks, if not months old.
Ooh, that's an interesting statement. I've never even thought that. We are getting outdated news. Can
Totally.
you give us an example?
Um, like if they make a big deal about some technology or, like let's say that they want to talk about some, we'll say like a military technology that we, are supposedly in development on, like that information when it finally does get to like a declassified level and gets put out in the news, like United States, confirms it's testing some new drone that can do whatever, like an EMP drone. Like by the time we hear about that, those things have been flying around for probably years at that point, and you just had no idea. Like,
Leprechaun. It's funny we're talking about this. I'm getting blown up by the one and only Agent X. Is there a way you could maybe bring him on real quick?
yeah, yeah,
I'm not
let's
able to
do it.
read what he's texting, but he's been texting me tech talk all day,
Nice. All right. Yeah.
and
Let
I'm
me, can you send him the link or do you want me to send you another one
yeah.
or
I'd rather you. Can you just send it to him
by email or what do you think would be
or
best?
on Messenger? Or actually, here, I'll forward it to him right now. I can see. I'm a big boy.
Okay.
I don't have my bifocals on, but I do have bifocals. If you want to fill up the time real quick while I do this, I'm retarded.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of things happening. Let's jump into, let's go back to our Biden topic just momentarily. We'll read some of this article. So, President Biden told U.S. troops in Poland Friday that they will witness bravery of Ukrainians fighting off Russia's invasion. When you're there, making a significant gaffe, is what they're calling it, after he previously said that the U.S. must stay out of the European conflict and avoid triggering World War III. I don't know, like thinking about just him as our wartime president is probably the most terrifying thing I can think of. I don't
That's
know.
the point I was trying to make at the beginning of the show. Like, does that not put fear in your heart that this is our
Yeah, totally.
Hey guys,
Agent,
what's going on?
not a whole lot. We're just having a Freestyle Friday. Welcome to the stream.
agent? I gotta apologize. I haven't been able to see the text you've been sending me for the last 20 minutes. We've been on the show, but I know you got a lot to unload.
Oh yeah, I just saw a thing about Biden saying troops are going. Apparently, the White House now is doing damage control because he misspoke, and they in fact won't be going boots on the ground.
Can they get anything straight?
Oh yeah, I just found out.
Freestyle Friday, Pookie.
Yeah, well, I just found out. Apparently, the Russian central bank just pegged. Well, so check this out. So apparently, the Russian central bank just pegged the ruble to the price of gold, and they only were able to do it because it dropped like 20 or 30%. So now, since it dropped so low, they're using gold as their floor. So I think it's right at 5,000.
Wow.
Like I said, like there won't be a new conflict. So the news is showing all this other stuff, but like once you have the Saudis no longer using it, using the dollar, and then you got China, you got India, you got all the BRICS nations. Everybody else is going to go too. And what else? Oh, yes. Also, they are considering accepting Bitcoin for natural gas and oil. Russia is
Ooh.
a supplier of natural gas. So, like, so people aren't looking at that aspect. You're just looking at the stuff that's now, which is terrible. But no, this is just what he actually wanted. He wanted his currency to drop. Those people don't understand. Like he doesn't care about the people, but he wanted his currency to drop because
Yep.
because
That's smart.
Yeah. Well, and I heard that the ruble was at 98 or 97 cents yesterday, and it was that close to a dollar. So they had jumped back up that fast, in just that short time.
Wow.
no
So
when
I don't
um,
know.
when I googled it, it was actually at a penny on Google when I googled one ruble.
Yeah, like I said, I looked at it yesterday, so I'm sure it's real close, if not even.
Yeah, so he's gonna use this to rebuild the value of his currency.
That's pretty
Interesting.
clever. Pretty clever.
Do you
Um,
think maybe this was the point the whole time? I mean, I know he wanted the Donbass region and Crimea to be sovereign Russia, but like, do you think maybe this was the point the whole time is to do
this
some
is probably
warfare that
part of it
way?
because
Hmm.
I think he actually made money from just this invasion. Like he made billions of dollars from just this invasion. And the other thing is, we are going to see food shortages. Probably, like I think that the food system is going to be irrevocably ended, and we're going to have
Ooh.
to go back local.
Ooh, good point. Because we've been talking local food for years now.
Yeah, it's going to take a couple. It's going to take a couple years just to repair because of Ukraine, and they
The wheat.
actually they're one of the biggest wheat providers. I heard. I think wheat or one of them.
Yeah, no, they're the breadbasket of Europe. Like this is
Mm.
a really big deal that their production is less than I think like 70% of production is off or delayed already. And they said as the war drags on, they said it's only going to get worse. And they're not going to sell to other countries if they can't feed themselves.
That's
Yeah,
a
but I
very
don't.
good point too. Wow. Mm-hmm.
Well, I really like. For me, I really don't think. I don't think other countries are going to let themselves go hungry over us. If that makes sense.
What
We
do you
got that.
mean? That's frightening me.
Well, no. So, but okay, so push come to shove. If everybody is going hungry. All these other countries need this stuff, and they have a choice between leaving the dollar and buying stuff
Oh.
with Bitcoin and buying stuff with ruble or whatever currency they have to. I think push come to shove, they will do it. Like
Mhm.
they're not going to stand by Joe Biden. They probably would have did it because of Trump, but not for Joe Biden. And
Mhm.
and because you got to think about it right now, I don't know if you guys knew because I didn't know. Apparently, for the past 16 months, Ethiopia has been in a civil war, and over 500,000 people have died.
Oh
No one
my
has sent any
God.
help. No one
Not
has
a
sent
peep.
any help. They're even I forgot. I forgot which side is doing it. But
What?
one side is actually bombing refugee areas of Ethiopia, so you can't even get to the people, and nobody's caring. Nobody's sending anything to those people. So I
I have
have
not
friends.
seen one Facebook uh, banner stating I stand with Ethiopia.
No, because they don't care. I have friends in Russia. I
How?
have friends in Ukraine, and it's terrible what's going on there. But
Yeah,
yeah, nobody's talked about Ethiopia at all. I
that's
just found
interesting.
out
Well, and
that
it's
Hmm.
that
that way with Yemen. It's that way with basically all these other countries that get no publicity when they're going through some sort of a trial or tribulation or civil war. I mean, you look at everything, it's just besides vaccines, I mean, they don't get anything else. Like I don't know. It like you said, we got some serious starvation
dude,
concerns.
500,000 people died.
That's so
But
sad.
I've been thinking about the food situation and the reality for America. There's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't have urban farms everywhere, and it made me think about horticulture. And for me, I'm thinking a good business would be take up these old buildings, these abandoned buildings that are dirt cheap, convert them to horticulture, and then charge people a monthly fee like Netflix for food. You
Wow, Agent X, you're a genius once again.
That is a great idea.
Very
That's
great
probably
idea.
going to be a new business that pops up because you got to think about it. We have chicken here, we pack, we send all the way to China. They cut it up and then they send it back to us.
That makes no sense.
Oh, that's crazy. But you're right though. Like that has totally been the trend for a while, and it does work. I got a family member that lives, in a lake community, and they have a garden basically at the base of the lake. There's some really fertile land, and the entire lake. Basically, everybody participates. They contribute money, but they also contribute, whatever they want, and then they get part of the yield when it comes time for harvest of the different things. So they'll do carrots and corn, they'll do different things at different times, and then do different crops. But that way everybody gets some of that yield and they're at least able to supplement, what you buy from the store.
Yeah, but
So
like
it
you
works
don't
great.
even you don't even need soil or aeroponics and aquaponics. You don't need the soil, and that you can grow so much food, and that's what people are going to have to start doing. And I'm pretty
Hey,
sure.
Agent X, remember that Russian farmer in 2017? He made a cryptocurrency,
Oh,
tokenized it to his crops, and like saved his whole local economy. The guy's a legend, and you cannot find him on Google anymore. I looked for him.
yeah,
It's
it's
weird. They
people.
scrubbed him.
Yeah, it's people are probably doing good, but it probably isn't really any more news about that. But that's the
No,
sort of situations. This is why I say the future is for smart people, because finally you're really gonna have to promote smart people to come up with solutions. You
that's a
know,
great point.
Yep,
like
Hmm.
for sure.
you're gonna have to. Oh, I found something else out too. So I found out from one of my friends who's a perfumer. They live in Canada and they got a quote to ship 20,000 bottles of fragrance to Australia. Do you know? Guess how much that cost?
Oh, you were telling me this. I already know the answer.
Take a guess, Lep.
I have no clue. I don't know. How
Shoot
do
something.
I get
Shoot
any
something.
details?
No, so
I don't know.
Five
We'll
basically
fit
call it 10,
over five.
10 grand. 10 grand.
$16,000, and had
Dang.
someone else had chimed in that that was cheap because they got quoted at 24,000.
What?
My
I didn't
question
hear
is,
that part.
so my question is, how do you make money? How is anybody going to make
Wow.
money? How are you going to even ship grain and food on a boat in a shipping container when it costs that much?
Wow. Why is the media talking about men being women and winning swimming contests when stuff like this is really happening?
Because, well, even if they did, average people won't accept it anyway. So,
Yeah, you're
like,
right.
it's just wasting air.
You're right.
For
They
sure.
won't get it until it's too late. And, like, oh my God, someone save us. It's almost,
Mhm.
I mean, it's terrible to say, but it's almost like that line that the Green Goblin said in Spider Man. In societies, you have a handful of people rise up and everybody carries them on their shoulders. So, when all this happens and it hits the fan, everybody's going to look for a hero.
When a hero comes along.
Yeah, they're gonna need somebody to fix these problems. And I think you could probably take five. I know of probably like five people. If you gave them the money to fix stuff, they can fix it. You know,
Ooh,
look at
yeah.
Elon Musk.
Yeah,
A
yeah, it's
whole
true.
area, a whole country didn't have internet. It took one tweet and he fixed it.
Wow, what
Yeah,
happened with
Starlink.
that?
Oh,
Oh,
in the
okay.
Ukraine, they didn't have Starlink. So one guy sent him a tweet and then he said, "Okay, done," and they sent them the Starlinks.
Wow, that's amazing. That is so dude, I'm living off free Wi-Fi on my phone. Anywhere I go in this area and my cell service does not work. I will repeat that every night until it stops because it's blowing my mind. It should not be doing this. Huh.
Pay your bill. No, I'm just playing.
Dude, I did. It's paid up. That's the weird thing.
Sure, that's what everybody says. No, I'm playing.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, no,
And
it's
it's a cheap
it's
prepaid. It's $40 a month. I get
you're not wrong though. It's nice to have that Wi-Fi everywhere. I mean, we take internet for granted now, but I mean, 10, 12, 18 years, whatever it's been since, we've had the modern internet after we ditched our AOL discs, we've gotten a little spoiled and wouldn't take much, like you said, a little bit. I mean, people always forget if there's a power outage or an EMP or anything like that, I mean, you're going to lose cell towers. So,
well, Leprechaun, can I expound on this a little bit more?
yeah.
When I was out here in the exact same yard I'm standing in 1 year ago, I had a Verizon phone that costed $93 a month and it was badass and it did not get Wi-Fi out here. It got cell service, but it didn't get Wi-Fi. Now I'm using US Cellular, one of the cheapest, no name, they don't even have towers out here. I wonder if maybe I'm running off Starlink because I'm not running off anybody's Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of
So
weird.
I'm still not gonna Google it. I don't care. It's working. So why break what's not broken?
Yeah, and sometimes I don't know, like, what carrier do you have?
US Cellular.
And did their coverage change from one state to the other, or is it the same?
Bro, I have been all over this country and it's worked flawlessly everywhere. Even in Missouri, like 12,000 people town. I'm right by Houston and Dallas, dude. I'm in the and Austin. I'm right in the middle of all three major cities.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
anyways, enough speculation. What else you guys got? Freestyle
Um,
Friday.
I was on LinkedIn and somebody had posted from Jerome, the Fed chair, how they're looking into crypto. And then I had
Oh.
posted, I was like, what are they even talking about? They know Fed now is going to launch at the end of next year. Like Paystring is launching. Paystring's already launched. And I'm like, they know this stuff is already coming. So, I mean, like, and the crazy thing is that the guy on LinkedIn didn't even know this stuff existed. Like, so my thing is not. I'm like not even afraid about it. I'm just wondering how in the world are they going to be able to onboard these many people on crypto wallets, FedNow, safeguarding your own data because you're going to be responsible for your own private keys. Average people are going to be responsible. So I'm just seeing a nightmare. You know, you lose your private key. You unless you're using biometrics. Then you say, well, what if somebody steals your biometrics? What if somebody copies your voice? What if somebody copies your image?
Mm.
This is the stuff that Elizabeth Warren should be talking about, not some asinine question about mixers and putting things in a wallet when everybody in crypto knows your wallet doesn't actually hold your crypto.
Right? You are so true, Agent X. You are preaching tonight, brother. That is for show.
For sure. And the other thing too, like I don't ever see when you think of the average person's understanding of anything that they don't know that's, especially like a new technology. I mean, you're talking about a real uphill battle. I mean, we're talking people in California, like kids that are in high school, they can't read a clock. I mean, how are they gonna
Right?
I mean, I don't see it happening. Like you said, there's no way.
But look how long it took us, like, just to learn about crypto. And then the
Oh
thing,
my gosh. It has been painful, and people do not know the sacrifices Agent X and I have, like, collectively put into this. Like, we're talking 10 years of dedication.
and like it moves so fast. If you
Yeah.
tell people, "Oh yeah, I'm a developer for Solana," they have no idea what you're talking about. And like,
Correct. Correct.
you get people like Elizabeth Warren, which I think she is well meaning, but I think someone actually needs to sit down and actually just bombard her with all this stuff and show her how to do a crypto wallet that she understands because her concern is misplaced. It should be placed on these other things, your digital identity. A lot of this stuff is already solved, but it's like, you know, how are you going to hold it? Even if you have a hardware wallet, those things can break. You can lose those.
Oh,
Nobody
yep. Yep.
remembers. I don't remember private keys and stuff. Nobody remembers that.
No.
You don't even
Mm-mm.
remember
Well,
the
and if your house burns down, then what?
Well, here's the thing, guys. Check this out. If you send me Bitcoin, or I mean Ethereum right now to digitalclimaxkings.eth, it's going in my wallet, baby. Meaning it's going into from it's a ledger. And I got the keys to that ledger.
Oh, guys, I just remembered the biggest news.
What's that?
DeSantis came out. Florida will probably be accepting Bitcoin for taxes to allow people to pay in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, which means that it will be a legal tender in Florida, probably.
Oh, wow.
That's
Pretty,
amazing.
that's huge.
Miami already has a crypto, so does New York, Austin, and
Oh,
San Fran, I think.
Miami coin, yeah.
Yeah. So when inflation hits, the people who are mining Miami coin are going to they're going to be fine.
hmm.
See
Well,
what
that's
I'm
a good.
saying?
That's such a great idea. I mean, I can't believe that every state doesn't already have something. Like at least
Oh,
the
dude.
major cities.
So, Leprechaun,
Yeah,
you know the Piggly Wiggly?
indeed.
Our brother Troy Walker sent me a picture the other day of an old vintage coupon in a newspaper for $100 worth at the Piggly Wiggly. And it was, I forgot how he termed it in the text message, but it was like alternative currency or something. And that was during like a time when I think we were in the Depression or something. I don't know. I didn't ask any more questions. I was working. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, there have been places that have experimented with it. I forget what they called them. They had a name. They weren't greenbacks. They were something else. But it was like essentially they had currencies that they would give to like hotels and different establishments, and they could hand it out as vouchers. So that way they weren't actually handing out, cash that was good anywhere else. So people would have to spend it before they left, and you could go to like the front desk and you could get your money exchanged for this city currency. So it was like 10 years ago that I saw some of these cities were doing it. So it'd be interesting to check back in with them and see if they've started adopting crypto yet.
Well, you know who's going to have the strongest currency, I believe? If we like took it on a state by state level, you
Hmm.
already know, Lep. Texas, Texas. How could Texas not have the strongest in-state currency with the resources that they have
I could see ways that wouldn't
and the
happen.
land size? Look how big it is. Biggest state. Do-do-do-do.
I mean, I'd say being a top contender for sure, but I don't think anything's a shoe-in. Like
Yeah,
if
yeah.
if,
Well, they
if
don't have
Florida,
Agent X and Digital Profits, and Texas does.
that is a fact.
Agent X, you missed the beginning of the show. I was
Hey,
hyping
I'm
up
representing Minnesota
Texas.
up here. Come on,
Dude, I
we
got
got the
mad
best
love for
chance.
Minnesota.
We
I
got
just
the best
despise the
chance.
cold. But you do have the upper hand with the cold, bro. That's a good point. You know?
Oh yeah, when
And
things
the
go
ports,
down,
the Twin
every,
Ports. Ooh, ooh.
if things go down, everybody's going to be coming to Minnesota in the winter because if you can find a way to stay warm, nobody going to bother your preps.
That's true, amen. Guys, check it out. Guess what I've been watching since the sun went down?
What?
Fireflies, bro. They're everywhere out here.
You should bottle them.
Right? Well, they're like all flying super high, and I'm short. How do you catch
That is true.
fireflies, Agent X?
Wow.
There's like a thing you can spray, like a pheromone. I've seen people like write their name with fireflies. You like spray some
Oh.
sort of a thing that attracts them, and then all the fireflies come to that spot.
Serious? I'm gonna
Yeah,
figure out how
yeah,
to do
yeah.
that. I'm
I don't
gonna
know if
figure out
it's
how to do it.
real. I saw
Well,
it on the
maybe
internet. It's got to be real.
next Freestyle Friday, I'm gonna try it out.
All right, I'm game.
Oh, Agent X, we're trying to throw out theme days too, like Tech Tuesday, Freestyle Friday, Maniac Monday. I don't know. It'll come.
Yeah. But no, I just think there's still a lot of opportunity. Hey,
Mhm.
didn't you say Web3 devs are making like 700K now or something like that?
Yeah, it's a write up on Wired.com. I read it the other morning just briefly, and it was just alluding to like the fact that that is kind of the salary base that this technology we know so well is commanding because it's so important for the rebuilding of this digital infrastructure.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, everything's going to be important. I don't think that there could be a shortage of new ideas coming to the problems that we're about to have. I think that people are going to, when they get hungry, especially, or they get desperate, whatever comes first, because we got a lot of people that are very, very dependent on medications in the United States. I don't think people realize like how much raw materials come out of China. And
Mm-hmm.
I think medication could be a huge shortcoming. Like if we don't check our six on that real soon and start making some of these things here, insulin. I mean, there's a lot of people that have a chronic disease that are taking multiple medications every day.
Leprechaun, I'd like to thank you for contributing to my insomnia by stating that because I didn't even think of that. And look how enabled our society is upon meds. Everybody needs their meds. Everywhere I go, it's like everybody's on meds. I hate pills. Pills are like the devil to me.
Unless you need an antibiotic because you're going to die.
Exactly. No, I
No,
got
no,
your
no,
point.
right? But
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
I'm saying is that those things, like you take them all for granted, and if we do get to a place, where there
Maybe.
is like at least some unrest in a big city, like I could see that being a huge problem. Like
I think I saw that.
if they don't get medicine to people, they are done.
Wasn't that like in the first series of Walking Dead? Like
Probably was at some
rating
point.
medicine. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, it's just a common plot in any zombie movie, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the top of the list, but it's real high. It's in the top
So,
10.
what do you guys think about the theory of like all these like this whole last 20 years of like zombie movie after zombie movie and the Purge movies and all these like Hunger Game movies? Like, do you predictive programming? Do you see any truth behind that? Like, kind of broadcasting what's to come.
Maybe.
Oh,
I think that there's the only thing that I think is for sure true, and that most every survival movie or show is kind of shown us is that people end up becoming more dangerous than whatever the thing is that caused the collapse or the zombie or whatever. Like it ends up being, essentially people are the biggest enemy, or lack of people is what ends up killing you.
I learned that from Scooby Doo. Now that I think about it.
Hey, you can learn a lot of things. Like you think about it, we all learned about like classical music and some of the more, interesting things that we all probably heard a lot, watching Looney Tunes. And
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
like I
Speedy
think that's why,
Gonzalez.
yeah, I think that's why our generation is so much smarter and willing to adapt. But if you look at like millennials and everyone younger, I mean, they are not very adaptable. They think that we're all pretty much crazy, and they're not even going to talk to us. Like there's no way that the United States, if it were governed by the people that are coming up, like we would be in even worse shape than we are now. I know it's hard to imagine with Biden being as crazy as he is, but it could be worse.
Okay, Leprechaun. I know you have some kids that aren't millennials. What's the new name for like your kids' age group?
I'd have to look at the
Well, the
chart.
question
I
is,
think millennial cutoff is like 26 or 27, if I'm not mistaken.
okay, well, as a parent of like the newer generation, are you seeing a change or like promise in like the way they are developing and being educated? Because I have no kids. I only like have friends that have kids, and I don't know what you know regarding like school education and the programming that's being taught.
Yeah, I mean, Minnesota has always sort of been kind of like a very liberal. I always called Minnesota Canada Light jokingly because we basically do whatever Canada's doing to a lighter, less, like I would say Minnesota nice is almost like the way that people joke about Canadians all being so nice to each other too. Like it really is kind of a thing. I wish it wasn't,
Yeah,
but it
it
is.
is. I witnessed it in person for many, many years. It's real.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a wonderful, endearing quality or if it's something that makes us all bad shit crazy, but it's out there. It happens.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Well, you'd have to be crazy to want to stay somewhere where, we have seasons. It's just three of them suck.
True.
Dude, it snowed today
Unless you
again.
can
It
adapt.
snowed today. Yeah, it snowed today again.
I'm so glad I came to Texas instead of Minnesota.
I mean, like the wind was blowing so hard today that I had to go collect half of my house in my backyard, like gutters. I mean, like it's some crazy wind today. Unreal, unreal.
That's
I
funny
saw,
because right before I got here, there was an actual tornado 20 miles north of me.
I saw that thing. It was
I
a
drove through the
thing on
wreckage,
news.
dude. It was insanity.
They said it was pretty big.
Yeah,
I'm sure it was pretty interesting. You guys had probably pretty used to the tornado thing by now.
I'm not used to them. I'm terrified of them.
Well,
I
yeah, it's
one
because
time drove. I was in a wedding in Minnesota in the May, and because tornado season was going hard, I drove all the way to the West Coast to California, and then did a U-turn and came back to Texas like 2 weeks later because I was afraid of tornadoes.
yeah, my mom was like crazy protective over us as kids. Whenever we
Oh,
would get a tornado, we were like rounded up and sent to the basement, and we couldn't come up until, like pretty much the storm was over. So we'd all always go out the back door, and so one of us would have to stay, and the rest of us would go out in the garage or somewhere to watch the storm. And then one of us brothers would be like standing down there in the basement so that Ma could see us, and it was like, "Yep, we're all down here." Uh-huh.
oh, hey guys, I got a quick question regarding like our food supply in the states, and I'm just thinking of all the weather that I've been experiencing everywhere. Like California was on fire, so I know a lot of crops suffered, and there's like floods and stuff going on. What's our current food supply status? Do you guys know?
Well, according to Joe Biden, he said we will have food shortages. Well, I take that to mean they're going to be pretty bad.
Oof,
Yeah,
okay.
100% agree. And I think that like by him actually saying it out loud means that they know it's way worse than what they're talking about, especially in the lamestream news.
Well, what's sad is now that he said it, and now like I have friends that will hear it on the news or hear it from somebody who are on the news, and it'll just become like assimilated into the communities as common knowledge. Oh yeah, there's going to be food shortages. The president said so, and it's just like another pill that's getting swallowed. Like, oh yeah, let's go get some shots for flu virus that doesn't kill people. You know, like I don't know, not going there, but you know what the point I'm trying to make.
Well,
Yeah,
I
and
think
first of
what's going
all,
to
oh,
happen.
go ahead.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, we don't want to give medical advice, so
Yeah.
vaccines are safe and effective. YouTube told me that
Yes.
they are, so I know that they would
Yes.
never lie to us. But go ahead with what you're going to say,
Totally.
Agent X.
As far as I
Nope.
know, if we do have bad food shortages, I would suggest that people don't go protest because the president since has been said that you can't do that. So if you go protest, you will probably go to jail and your bank account will
Oh.
probably be froze. So just stay home and try to grow some food because
Yes.
you're not going to be allowed to protest
Okay.
like that
Good.
all.
Good knowledge.
Yeah. So don't expect to get mad that you
You
can't
know,
buy.
Agent X, it's interesting that you just said that after we've been so like primed with protests for the last few years. You know, the George Floyd and all that.
No,
So
no,
like people
you're
have
not
been
doing
mentally
it.
conditioned to do that. Like they've been set up for failure.
Well, no, you remember the truckers in Canada,
Oh,
and
that's
then they didn't
right.
hear, but didn't get any news. Like they're not going to allow you to protest not being able to
Uh,
buy food. If you
what
go out,
happened?
they will freeze your bank account and they will put you in jail. Joe
Is
Biden
that
is not going to allow that.
is the Canada trucker thing still going on?
No.
Well, no, they
Okay.
dismantled it in Canada.
You guys were
Yeah.
my only news outlet for that, to be honest. I mean, I saw headlines, but I didn't check them out really.
No, they kettled him up and took him out of there basically with some, they called it like nuisance or public nuisance or some stupid like criminal offense that was like a petty misdemeanor. But the only problem I see with that here, like I totally agree that there will definitely be some people that do get arrested, but I think that a collapse here looks so different than a collapse anywhere else in the world because we're so well armed. I mean, there's no way that I'm
Whoa.
like, you can't tell me now. I don't want to push back because I agree with what you're saying, but you can't tell me that me, myself, a father of, two kids and a wife to take care of, people are going to die before they're going to starve. So I'm not saying that
Exactly.
I'm going to ever hurt anybody, but they're just not going hungry. We're going to find a
Yes.
way, even if it kills me.
Yeah,
So,
you can
hmm,
go hunting. The people who live in these gigantic liberal cities, they're gonna freak out. But like if you live in any other place in the country, you can go hunting. You can find a hunter, and you'll be able to
hmm,
get food. Some
there's so
places,
much food out here in Texas. I'm staring at food right now.
Well, and
yeah,
it's true
places
that
is
that's
probably going to
hunting
be
a big thing, but you can
places is
also look
probably going to be
for.
straight. I'm just saying, it's like people shouldn't go out and protest because they will freeze their bank accounts, and
Oh
people
yeah,
think
in the
joke
city.
that that's a president. Like even the poor people in Ukraine, their government froze their bank account because they didn't want them leaving the Ukrainian dollar. So that's why everybody had to get crypto because their own government shut their people out of being able to use the Ukrainian money. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it could definitely happen in a big way in big cities, but I think that by and large, the United States is just too well armed. I think a situation like that inevitably becomes a civil war before, people are just going to sit there and, take it lying down.
no,
So,
I don't even think that'll happen. I think people in places like Florida and Texas will just sit and look and say, "See, you should have voted better." And I don't
Yep.
think there's going to be any fight. I just think Texas and Florida and all these self-sufficient places are just going to move on, and that's why I think
Mhm.
the Americans, but I think the country will just be in sections, like Tim Draper said about California. I think the parts of California that are self-sufficient, that has plenty of land, those places are going to be fine. L.A. and
Mhm.
New York, not so much,
Mhm.
because you
oh,
got to
for
think
sure.
about it. Like, well, I'm from Louisiana. You grow all the food. You don't have to
Mhm.
ship that food to remember when the riots happened in Chicago. The truckers said, "Look, we're not going to Chicago and these cities to get beat up in our trucks."
Mm,
Remember that?
mm-mm.
No,
Yeah,
remember like they were rioting up there last. Well, when they were doing all those riots, the
Mhm.
truckers said, "You're not going to pull us out of our trucks and hurt us."
Mhm.
So they
Mhm.
were actually going to shut off Chicago. They said they just wasn't going to go to Chicago. So
Wow.
you're looking at a situation like that where all this the doers come in, it's probably going to be going to the safe places.
That's intense. You know what I made a comment about today? Leprechaun, another fun fact about Texas. The best food is everywhere. Like you can go to a gas station down the street and it'll just look like a little podunk gas station. They got the best fresh food ever in there. It's like a freaking 5-star restaurant everywhere you go.
yeah, their food is legendary. You guys
It
got
is.
some of the best chunks of like Angus and all sorts of cow in any which way you can cook it is so good in Texas. You legendary pork. I mean, it's all great. I can't. I've been to Texas twice in my life, and it was by far one of the most fond memories I have is eating in restaurants when we were down there.
Here's
Well,
another interesting fact, real quick. I'm right by you probably hear the traffic going by. It's just a country road, but the road that it connects to right down the street is another country road. And I literally have watched in one day like billions of dollars of economic commerce going back and forth in the form of trailers full of cattle, in the form of tractors, and all kinds of development. Like, it's amazing. I don't see that anywhere else I've really been as prolific, if that's the right word, as I do right here in a tiny little place you would never know about unless I told you. Isn't that something?
Yeah, Texas's biggest problem is Mexico, but everything else
Yeah,
is
it's a
pretty darn
war down
perfect.
there.
Yep. So I think that's your biggest downfall is going to be Mexico. But I
But
think where
here's
you
the
guys
funny
are,
thing,
you'll be fine. You'll be
Leprechaun.
fine. But the bottom part
Here,
could turn into Mexico.
here's the thing. Here's, like I said earlier, if you come out to the country, like where I'm at, and you don't know anybody, what? Good luck. But what I see is it's a pretty like peaceful blend of cartel, like everywhere, and minorities of every kind. White, black, Asian. There's so many different people groups out here, and we all rock together. You know what I mean? Like, we're going down the street, the homeboys are running like the stop signs for the road construction. We're like, "What up, dog?" And I'm like with the Mexican and an Irishman. It's just amazing.
Yeah, you guys have some of the best culture that this country
It
has to
really
offer.
is, and I think it's been skewed by the media for years.
For sure. I'm not dogging Texas. If I could switch places with you, I would in a heartbeat. But I do have concerns about what could happen
Yeah.
depending on if Mexico can't take care of itself and falls into total chaos. Our record about preserving the border and specifically like I think like most of the time they're coming up through California, that's not nearly as tight as compared to Texas. I mean, you guys weren't able to build that wall, but I think by and large, you guys would be fine just because the bottom half of Texas I could see being, the part.
Well, okay. I think
If you're more
well
than a
the
tank of gas away from the border, you should be fine.
the point I was trying to make, Lep, is that they're already here. I mean, the war is just publicity. Like, there's it's a different reality when you actually live in it and see it, like I have, and you realize, okay, as long as you're real and cool and stay in your lane, you're gonna be fine. Just like Agent X said, you're gonna be fine.
Oh yeah,
Like,
no, I don't have any more concern about living there.
yeah,
Actually, I have
yeah.
less concern, because you have such good laws like regarding property rights and like your civil rights are so much better protected in Texas than this area that we call
Mhm.
Canada Light in
well,
Minnesota.
we're still a republic, which is great.
Yep.
Yeah, that's huge.
Huge, huge, major, huge. What else, guys? I think this is going pretty cool. I like Freestyle Friday.
Yeah, and we get
I think despite all of the stuff we're seeing that may be kind of negative, I think there's still tons and tons of opportunity. It's like if you study for 8, 9 months now, it's easier to get into Web3. That's like I said with the food thing. If I was a farmer, I would
Mhm.
probably refinance part of my farm and just put hydroponics, not hydroponics, yeah, well, hydroponics and aeroponics
Mhm.
on my farm. Because if you can't
Mhm.
get the soil, you still have the land, and just do that because you can yield so much more food from
You're right.
these buildings. Like there's one company this guy made, so it's basically like a trailer, but this trailer is a farm, which is crazy, and it yields like 100 pounds of food, like a couple weeks. So it's crazy. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in the middle of all this chaos. So it's not completely negative, but you're just gonna have to be the type of person who can make things and can do it. Because like if you think you can just get a job and stuff, you're not gonna be able to make it. Like that's over.
That's a good point, Agent X. Elaborate on that.
That well, basically, what we knew as a job is gone. Like it had a good run for about what 65, 70 years. It's over. Our great grandfathers and mothers, and our great grandfathers and mothers, they all had a skill set. They did sheetrock, they did hair, they did concrete, they were electricians. And what we knew growing up as teenagers in our 20s, you didn't do that because you didn't have to. You just went and got a job.
Good point.
But that's
Hmm.
over. You're not going to be able to take care of yourself doing that. So people going to have to sacrifice, and they're going to have to learn another skill set. And unfortunately, people say don't learn how to code. Well, you don't really have to. There's a whole lot of things you can do, but you're going to have to be technical, and you're going to have to view your life outside your small town. You realize your customers is the whole world, and you that
Ooh.
you have to provide services for people. Because if you think you can work like a rent, for a lot of places, right at $1,000 or more for just a studio. So you're gonna have to take advantage of the actual internet and and get out of, oh, this is my hometown, this is all there is, or you're not.
Mm.
So what are we going to do about all these people that are just basically consumers that are living on, like welfare and
Well,
all these social programs? What are they
Well,
going
I
to
know.
do?
Well, the thing is, most people don't live on social programs and welfare. Most people do what average people did. They go get jobs and they struggle. They have regular jobs and they have regular lives, and that kind of sucks. Most people aren't on welfare and food stamps because you got to think about it. The average person can't even get help. So the system is set up where you have to be at your absolute lowest to get help. So you have a bunch of people that are working at regular jobs and they're struggling. So I think the correct answer is, what are average people going to do? Right? Because those people that are on these other things, people need those things, but they're not even in the equation. The equation are regular, average people. Your kids growing up, what are they going to do? They want a job, they want work, but they're going to have a in-demand skill set, and
Mm.
they're going to have to be technical. And a lot of American kids and a lot of Americans don't want to be technical, and it's
Mhm.
crazy. We got a friend in Zimbabwe right now. This kid is technical.
Mm. Mhm.
Hmm.
And if he lived here, he'd run circles around. Like I
Yep.
worked with some kids that know C plus plus and Python. I'm like, what
Yeah,
Mhm.
here?
but I mean, wouldn't you say that people with like that background have the killer instinct that just is so lacking in our culture?
Well, no, it's like what I said, how everything's set up for average people. And right now, if you are at least bit ambitious and you find a mistake of living in a small town, so where you are not going to get a job, nobody's going to want to hire you. If you fall on hard time and you look for a job, people will actually look at you and say, "Well, what are you doing here?" I'm like, "Dumbass, I'm trying to get a job." Nobody's going to give you a stepping stone. The world right now is designed for average people who work at average jobs, who do average things, right? But in the
And it's
future,
so service based. Yeah.
in the future, you are going to have to be above average. You're going to have to
Mm.
be. In other words, people who just woke up and went to work are not going to be able to make it. And they're going to hate on everybody who took the sacrifice for a year, for 2 years, and were dirt poor and had no opportunities. They're going to hate. You see how people hate on successful, they hate on Elon Musk now. Successful people are hated.
Right.
And it's
Yeah,
just
for
going to get
sure.
worse. And they're going to call you lucky
Hmm.
and all this other stuff. But the reality, you, you aren't doing what you have to do because you feel as if you can just get a job and make it. Those jobs are not designed for you to make it. And that's the cold hard truth I had to run into. They're not.
Hmm.
No, you're
So
totally right about that. That you cannot, like, the working poor is more of a thing than the welfare state for sure by a lot. In fact, I would say that's basically the middle class, especially with inflation, going as high
yeah,
as it
so
has.
they're eating away at the middle class people. See, the people at the absolute bottom, they can get help, but they're at the absolute bottom. So it's harder for them to get up, and everybody else caught in the middle. It's a
Hmm.
fight not to get sucked down. So it's like this great sucking down. But the thing is, I don't think it's always going to be like that. I think a bunch of opportunity is coming for people who need it and want it. So I think it's going to be a shift where, because like the default has always been, oh, just go get a job. And as a man, you hear that you need to go work and get your two
Hmm.
jobs. I wish I could have gotten all that time back because I wasted my fucking time.
Mm,
Hmm.
I got out of high
100%.
school, I should have took my ass to trade school, and if I had to live out of my car, I should have did it because all these
Mm.
years and these jobs are for nothing. Those regular jobs are not for people with skill sets.
Totally true. Like, I couldn't agree more, honestly. Like, I wish I could go back and live my whole life over based on what you just said. But it's like you said. I mean, there's nothing great about a service economy, and that's essentially all that we have. My wish for the whole, I wish we had a president right now that had the kind of vision and like the technology savvy side that Elon Musk has. Well, he's not perfect. I think he's probably the best example right now of like the best thing that the United States has, like as far as technology and his ability to take an idea and make it applicable and work. Like, like you said, the Starlink and some of these things that, while they're not perfect yet either, they're definitely a huge, leaps and bounds better than anything tried before. Like
Oh, but
satellite internet.
he's too rich because he got a tax cut. And none of these people realize how money works. So basically, if you're an entertainer, Beyonce, AOC, or a politician, you can be rich. But if you're actually somebody who actually creates value in technology and hires people and pay many of these people well, no, you're a pariah and you're terrible. Like if you just took Elon Musk, the amount of GDP that he has put into the world is innumerable.
Right.
Starlink is
100%.
literally going to pull people out of poverty, like in Zimbabwe and other
You're
places.
right.
So the
You're
only
Well,
right.
people complaining
and
are
it gives
lazy
them.
people who don't want to apply themselves to learn anything. Because if you tell people like, okay, well, you know what, a kid in high school will be able to do DeFi to build farms in his hometown, and they will look at you like, what? Okay, that's why you're fucking broke. That right there. Your mindset is the reason why you're fucking broke. I remember in my hometown, across from the church that we were going to, was a little neighborhood project, and they were talking about the people are unfortunate, they're in a situation, and because they have to go to government assistance to get food, and my dumb ass said, well, why don't they put a community garden up? And then I'm an asshole for saying that. I'm like, okay, then stop complaining to me that you don't have anything, because that's your solution.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. And not only that, but internet gives people the ability to then have crypto, because if you got a cell phone, then you can have crypto, you can have a digital wallet, and that gives you the ability to market your services or product to anyone. Like it literally unlocks like the business sector to everyone.
Ooh, good point.
And you can get jobs that you can't get in your hometown. And I think a lot of people forget, on both sides that average cities, average town have average jobs. They don't have well-paying jobs. Like in Louisiana, I think we only have like 1.2% of all the tech jobs. So unless you live in one of these major areas, you're not gonna even know a lot of this stuff even exists because average cities have average jobs for average people. They do average things and they vote average, and that's why we got the dude we got in the office now because they're not going to vote, and that's
Oh,
not
they
going to
vote
change
average. That's huge.
until the tide changes because average people feel like victims.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
correct.
true. We do have a victim mentality in the United States
Because
with all of
in
it.
many ways, they are victims in many ways. So you got to make a choice. Are you going to stay that way, or are you going to try to do whatever you can do to try to fix it? And for me, I knew that keep like getting a job and getting another job and getting another one to try to keep my head above water does not work. So I had to sacrifice and say, you know what? I'm just going to be broke for the next 3 years. You can learn the skill,
Mm, mm-hmm.
and that's it. And most people don't. I remember one dude got so mad at me because they were having a
So
hard
many
time.
people have gotten mad at me.
They were having a hard time learning how to code. They're like, "Oh my God, it's terrible." And I said, "Look, dude, don't give up. You can make it. Just keep going. This is the most important thing." I said, "If you had to live out of your car, you live out of your car." And they got so angry because it's like, "What do you mean? That's crazy. I can't do that." I say, "Well, then that's why you're fucking broke because you got to get to the point everybody wants to be comfortable. Even in the advice we get as man, what's the advice we get as young man? Go out and work, go get your apartment, then work all day, all day, all day, all day. But guess what? You had no time to learn anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, you just come home, you crash, and do it all over. Like that movie, what is it, Wanted? Like that illustrates what you're. That's the idea I think of when you're telling the story of,
Until they then they
dudes
lay
in
you
a
off.
dead end job, dead end life.
And then they lay you off and then you get
What's
depressed
that?
and you
Mm-hmm.
sit around and you look stupid. Then maybe somebody let you
Oh
stay.
yeah.
You get another
Mm-hmm.
job,
Yep.
and then the same thing happens again. No, family, you need an in-demand skill. And I know tech may be hard for people, but those are the jobs that are in demand. I mean, hell, you can learn WordPress to make $55 an hour. So
Yep.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, we got a definite cultural awakening that needs to occur.
Yes.
we need
Cultural
a
and
real.
technical. Oh, a renaissance. Yes.
I was
Yes.
really hoping that after COVID would have been like the 1920s, and people actually would have wore suits and hats again and go out dancing, but nobody did that.
Right, bro. I
Like
was ready. I have a blazer now. I was ready.
like the fall of society happened when everybody decided they need to dress comfortably.
Good
That's when it all
point. I'm
hit.
not cultured like that. You're very well cultured, Agent X, and I am not.
No, you gotta think about it because the way you dress and show yourself is what's in the inside. So when everybody said, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna walk outside wrinkle. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
wear sweatpants and sandals. You told the world that you don't give a fuck and that life is all about you. And that was the downfall of
Ooh.
society. At least even in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, in the middle of all that stuff, even, everybody wore a suit, everybody looked nice, and everybody did their best because what they did, they put you in a mindset that you wanted better. And the thing that brought it home for me, I saw a picture of Martin Luther King. He
Mm-hmm.
was getting arrested by some cops, right? You said
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
terrible event until you looked at what he wore. He looked as fly as all get out. He had
Ah,
in the suit. I was like, damn, this dude looks fly. He looked
yeah.
fly getting arrested. The cops looked fly. Everybody looks fly. Everybody had a sense of pride and everybody had a sense that they wanted to do better in their life. But when you wake up in the morning and you don't iron your goddamn shirt and and
What are
you
you trying to say about my shirt?
no,
Um,
I'm just saying, like if people got up in the morning and they dressed really nice, it puts you in a whole mindset. So like when I hit my words and I got really depressed, I looked at like at YouTube videos from Tom Ford, and because he always said that you gotta dress and project yourself where you want to be in life, and that
Mhm.
kind of helps you go forward.
wow.
So when you see people Like a lot of these crazy liberal people dress really crazy. That tells you everything you need to know about them.
Wow, that's like a code. That's
Yeah,
incredible. I learn something every time I talk to you, Asian X. I love you.
No,
for
because
sure.
what's in the inside has to come out. It's like when women wear makeup, right?
Hmm.
Depending on the brand she wears and how she does her makeup, literally tells you everything you need to know about that woman. Everything.
Ooh, it's like war paint. I used to call it. Now I'm
Yeah,
gonna see
Well,
it
I
as
was
it's not
just
clown
gonna
even.
say
paint.
that. Yeah.
Well, see, because I'm a makeup artist, so it's not even war paint, right? It's like so
Okay.
if you meet a woman who shops at Mac, she boom back. Usually, those women are very confident. They're boombastic. They're the life of the party. They love their shimmer. If you meet a woman who wears Bobby Brown, she's super laid back, super low key. It looks really just natural,
Mm.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Yeah, so it goes from that. So when you see somebody screaming at you because they calling you a racist and they have on crazy ass colors and shit, it tells you all you need to know. Your hair is purple, half your head is shaved. You got a big that tells you that they're chaotic inside themselves and they
It
want to
sure
be,
does.
you
Yeah,
know.
for real.
Agent
And
X,
it's
I gotta
and
ask
you
you
see it
something.
everywhere. Sorry, go ahead.
So, I mean, this is everywhere now, but it used to be a joke about my hometown, Reno, Nevada. Like, Reno girls are all kind of similar in the fact that they're all like, they have this tough attitude and they all do like the hair shaved and millions of tattoos and every piercing you can think of. And they have like this bad girl, tough girl image. And I think it's just so, like, it's, I don't know, it's a turn off, guys, to be honest. I mean, I get it, but it's like it's not feminine. It's like masculine, you know?
Yeah,
Well,
that's
look at
kind
that
of how it
swimmer.
is.
Mhm.
This whole thing with that Supreme Court justice refusing to acknowledge, the differences between men and women. And they even brought up, like a court case that Ruth Bader Ginsburg had, they cited something that she had made a decision about and said, how do you feel about this? Or, wanted her to react to it. And she just was refusing to answer the question and then said, I can't determine what a woman is. I'm not a biologist. And I think that, like if you look at human skeletons that are thousands and thousands of years old, like you can tell the difference between men and women, like by just looking at
Mhm.
skeletons. So to say that there is no biological differences between men and women, I think is just a huge disservice to everyone, especially to teach
Yeah.
kids that. Because when you're born, like the doctor doesn't go, it's, one of the 72 genders. They say it's a boy or a girl, and then all this stuff is just social constructs that happen later, and part of this woke culture that tells people they can be whatever they want to be. You can grow up and be a furry if you want, or you can grow up and be a carrot, or anything. Like it's just
Carrot.
it's well, it's true. Like
Yeah.
they just they tell you watch Veggie Tales, you can be the veggie. Like it's just so incredibly untrue. And it's like, why? I mean, everybody knows it isn't true. Like, I've got to think that on the world stage, like Russia and countries that are serious, they've just got to be looking at like that swimmer and some of these other stories and being just beside themselves laughing, because it's funny at this point. And it's sad that the United States is a joke, but we kind of
Well,
are.
I think a lot of that's going to come to a head because you're crossing the line with people's children, and people are not going to be cool with indoctrinating people's children, and it is indoctrinated. It's the same reason why I wouldn't tell kid about Noah's Ark until they got older, because they're children. We should let children be children. 3 years
Mm.
of grown people, and
Huge.
have no problem putting people have no problem introducing these things to children because children are captive audiences. And you in reality people pretend to be valiant, but what they're actually doing, they're just manipulating those children to instill what they want to put inside of them. So I'm not going to tell a young kid, a 3-year old, a 4-year old, about Noah's Ark, about Moses. And people shouldn't be telling kids about all the sexual stuff either. Like, who's going to sit and do that? Some pervert, because you'll be
Mm.
because kids have no concept of that, and they're not like teenagers. So my thing is, let children be children. If you want to do that with your children, you go ahead, but leave everybody else kids alone. And so when you try to push that in a school with other people's children, that's not going to fly. And like
Mm.
you do with the female sports now. Now female athletes are speaking out. So when you do that to people, kids, people are going to start speaking out, and that's going to be the end of it. So the best thing to do is leave people kids alone. Nobody has a right to be around anybody else's child, and they should just leave people kids alone because that will get very ugly. Just don't, and that goes both ways. Just let children be children. Let them play. Let them be free because this is the only period of their life where they get to be kids. After 5, you ain't a little kid no more. Let these kids enjoy themselves and not be worried about all this bullshit.
You know what's funny that I'm thinking now about all my Reno girls is that they're all hardcore because they all have kids and they've all had to raise the kids without like fathers or multiple fathers. Like the male figure has not been in these kids' life, and their mom has put on the war paint and the tattoos and gotten tough because the dad didn't step up. Maybe I don't know, just a theory.
Well, raising a kid is hard, and you need two people. This
Mm,
Mm,
That's without that. And reality is, adults now can barely feed themselves. They can barely take care of themselves.
yeah,
yeah.
what you're saying is totally true. We were just talking about that before you jumped on that, a good portion of the country can't read an analog clock. So,
Bro, I was just on the phone with my mom about an hour or two ago, and she had just moved back from North Carolina, and she was telling me how astonished she was with the amount of homeless people she saw out there. I thought that was interesting.
I think that's going to hit ahead too because all of the companies that own all these apartments and stuff, they're raising the rent as high as they can.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality, they're not realizing that most of these people have roommates. So these aren't individuals, these are groups of people
Ooh, good
renting.
point.
And so what people are going to do, what they're doing now, they're just going to say, you know what, fuck this, let's get a house. And so people are
Mm-hmm.
going to buy houses that they can't afford simply because it's cheaper to rent the house. And they're going to stay in their house. And these apartments are going to go empty because you are within your rights to raise the rent.
Bro, a
If you
skunk
want
just walked up,
to,
dude. There's a skunk right in front of me.
but it's not
I hope it doesn't
sustainable.
spray.
One of my coworkers' rent just went up $300. Well, your job isn't going to give you more money. It's not really their responsibility. So all these apartments are just raising rent just because they can. But long term, it's not sustainable because I'll just get a mobile home. I'll get a nice mobile home with land outside the city limits of a rural farm and pay $400 a month or $500 a month.
Good
yeah.
point. I mean, that's a good strategy.
I do think that's true for like probably all of us, but I think that there is a certain percentage of people that feel entitled to a standard of living, and I think their ability to
Ooh.
accept any of this kind of change is going to be so dramatically different than our own. I
Well,
totally agree with
Okay.
you, but I just
Yes.
don't know what we do with them. Like, I don't want to say that, that they're useless, but in their current form, they kind of are.
Well, here's my thing. I wanted to make a point of earlier regarding the medications that everybody is on. Like, if there's shortages of those, I know like high energy people that are currently successful that rely on these like medications to maintain mentally and stay stable. So if there's a collapse in anything like that, then I see a mental collapse amongst the people that are currently successful.
Oh, for sure. If there's any interruption in medical, pharmaceuticals, it's that could be just as bad as a food shortage, I really think.
True. I didn't even realize that.
People are they're too, like you said, with this hyper polarized world, the ability of especially people in the cities to survive without all those antipsychotics, we've really done away with the classical, like institutionalized people. where you used to have like people would disappear for 10 years of their
Ooh.
life and then they would show up
My
again
uncle
someday.
was one of those.
Yeah, like that doesn't happen anymore because they drug them up and they put them in a house. Maybe they're
Hmm.
in there with a couple others, but you and I know that better than most because we worked with a lot of these people
Yes,
that
we
use
did.
institutions. And I just don't know what you do with people that need to consume. Like they have no other way. That's why they're called consumers, is because that's all they did was really consume resources, or services. So
Dude,
without people taking care of them and without these massive institutions that, used to house all of them in one place and sort of at least streamlined it from the care center's perspective, I just don't know how we take care of them anymore. And at least for
Leprechaun,
me.
can you explain to Agent X and the audience a little bit about what we did together?
Yeah, for sure. So back in, I would say the early 2000s, like 2002 to 2007, I worked for a company in Minnesota that provided vocational services to people that had developmental disabilities. So that covered things like Down syndrome, like there's autism. There was basically a range of services that they provided, but essentially we went out into the community and we would try to find those jobs that Agent was just talking about, those service sector jobs a lot of times, so that these people could have a stable paycheck and spending money because their personal needs were met by the government as far as like shelter and the essentials. But what they found is that having everybody in the community, it was difficult if they didn't have jobs or somewhere to exist. So they were starting to shift away from like the Pinewood was a center here in town that kind of had a matchstick factory where they would all show up to and work, but that got to a point where it wasn't good enough for some of the higher functioning folks. So then they moved into the community employment. So we worked for a growing company that found, like I said, a lot of service sector jobs, but some retail, some every kind of walk of life job that they were eligible for, which it was a very fulfilling job, but it was also very difficult work. Like anybody that's worked in it would tell you that it's very mentally taxing and that
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
it's not something that everyone can do.
Agent X, I used to get bear hugged by a, how old was Mike? Like 36-year old, 6'4" man who mentally was like 5 or 6, and he in the Y like bear hug you naked, and he didn't do nothing. He's Big Mike, and then I'd take him to the mall, and remember he'd always try to steal cigarette butts from the ashtrays.
Yeah, he'd go through the ashtrays,
uh,
like he'd jump out of the car faster than you could, walk up to the door, and then he'd be like, "Oh, just go in. I'll meet you inside." "Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing, man?" He's like, "Oh, no, I'm just gonna hang out here and finish my smoke." And it's like, "No, it looks like you're pulling every cigarette butt out of that ashtray, actually."
dude, we were glorified babysitters for adults, and here's where it gets weird and scary, bro. I remember one of my clients, rest in peace, I think he passed away, but he was a 23-year-old kid that liked to go to the diaper night club where they didn't serve alcohol on Wednesday nights.
Mm.
So I got paid to take him to the club from like 10 p.m. to midnight, and I hated it because I had a beautiful wife at home and I wasn't into the party scene. But during that time is when the Iraq invasion happened, and I remember being at the club when they were dropping those daisy cutters. Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
That was scary.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting job. I'm glad I did it because I learned a ton about the way that like I don't think anybody in the world is beyond a medical emergency or a condition putting any of us in that same position in some way or another, like a car accident or, something where you're not able to walk and you need, services all day long, 24-hour care basically. Like there is nobody that can afford that, so I don't care how much money you have, aside from the ultra wealthy folks like, Bezos or Elon or somebody like that, the rest of us are going to be in a pretty tough spot. And you'd be surprised how quickly, coming from my own experience, I had a mom that just went through cancer. and that financially and emotionally wiped her out. And
Ooh.
now she's in a nursing home and requires that 24-hour care. So I just really wonder
Wow.
how, you know, the United States has always been a caring and loving country, how they are going to deal with the difficulties of taking care of all these high needs
Yeah, it
people.
could happen to anybody. Like it can happen so fast. You could have a job, you get
Mhm.
fired, you go through your 6 months or a year of savings, and then that's it. Like it could happen. Like I was fortunate. I had friends who helped me. My parents helped me. My uncle helped me, and my sis. So I've been fortunate, but a lot of people haven't been that fortunate, and all it really takes is one thing to tip you over that edge. So I don't.
Dude,
I don't.
speaking of the struggle, Asian X, I remember this was 20. I think it was 2017, and I remember when I paid you, what was it, like $60 to give my friend like a 1 hour consultancy about crypto.
I think I remember.
That
I'm not sure.
happened, and yeah, Gina. I think
Oh
I
yeah,
was
yeah,
staying
yeah.
at her place in Dallas. Yeah, so Agent X gave her a consultation, and like she's one of the few people I can still talk to, like, and or not still talk to, but like that I used to know from back in the day that listened about crypto and has knowledge. She actually hit me up a couple of months ago and said she has an investor that wants to do a project regarding NFTs and crypto because Agent X and I helped her out in 2017 to get that just little base amount of knowledge.
Hey, a new article just came out from the head of BlackRock that said that the Ukraine thing was is upending the current world order and will end globalization. And I just had a thought: what if this is simply how they do the Great Reset? Because you need
I
a
think it
reason for
is.
Mm.
the reset.
Yep.
Can you explain the Great Reset, like in layman's
Oh, they
terms?
call it stakeholder capitalism, where a few stakeholders own everything and they rent everything else back to you.
Yeah, the you own
Basically,
Ooh,
nothing happy.
wow, that's creepy.
Yeah. Well, and
because
I
you,
think
So,
it kind of ties into the metaverse, like the way that they've been pushing,
ooh,
people to live in a pod,
hey, that's a
basically.
very valid point. That's a very valid point.
Yep.
Hmm. Now my insomnia is even worse.
hey guys, I'm gonna head out. I'll see you guys later.
All right,
Yeah.
Asian
Hey,
X,
thanks
thanks
for
for your
coming.
time, brother.
All
Yeah.
right, cool, cool.
Always a pleasure.
Well, we've been going
Let
for quite a while. We should probably call it a stream anyway.
Okay, I was gonna say the same thing, and I think this was probably the most enjoyable show for myself, and I'm gonna try and share it with everybody I think would give it a listen, and then encourage them to share it with people they think might give it a listen, because I think this type of quality of what we just talked about needs to, like, the content needs to be discussed further, you know?
For sure. We should do a whole episode on like all the stuff we know about the Great Reset.
Like, I mean, I already have like 80 takeaways from this. How long is it? Hour and a half conversation.
But I agree with Agent that I think there's still time in this
Hmm.
controlled collapse to make big moves, and I hope
Well, that's
everybody
why,
heeds that warning.
yes, I think that's why we need to, like, get this discussion, get more people involved in this conversation, so
Yeah,
we
for
can
sure.
discuss, strategize. The more heads there are, people that actually use them, we can do amazing things. I'm actually excited for what's coming up ahead in the positive aspects, because there's always, I mean, I think, yeah, it was Jesus that said the poor will always be with you, right? I mean, there's always going to be death and destruction because we're born and then we die. But while we're here, in the way we adapt to whatever the current surroundings are, using foreknowledge, looking ahead, not being naive and waiting for the rain to come, using the Noah's Ark analogy, you know what I mean? Like, this is the
Hmm.
time. This is a perfect time to do it because the money situation is becoming obvious. Everybody's realizing that bread is more expensive, but not necessarily, you know? So
Well, I think
okay.
the working class, they're realizing it. I think that there's a certain
Hmm.
percentage ultra wealthy that don't really care, but eventually it will come for them too, because like Agent was saying, the middle class is getting shrunk every day. But I don't want to end the podcast on a negative note, so I just wanted to say that I totally agree with you that this has been an awesome chat, and I hope we have many more like this. So let's break away for tonight. And any final thoughts before we sign off here?
Oh, you know it, brother. Texas want Texas needs you.